So this is the second presentation for topic 7, balance of payments. One of the main things that came out of the first presentation for this topic was that the UK has a large trade deficit. Approximately last year, our deficit was £10 billion for 2010. So clearly that is seen as quite a large deficit for the UK economy to have. What I want to cover now is why it's bad to have a trade deficit. We'll then think about what we can do to solve the problem. So first of all, it's bad because if imports exceed exports, this is an overall leakage from our economy. So clearly what this will create are negative multiplier effects. This will lead to lower rates of economic growth. It will lead to higher unemployment in the economy. So clearly that's seen as quite a bad thing. Another bad thing about a trade deficit this one is linked to the capital account. The UK covers up its trade deficit by posting large surpluses on the capital account. Now this sounds, well, that's not too bad then, but what that means is we need an increased level of foreign direct investment into our economy to pay for our deficit. What this means is that more foreign multinational companies are operating from Britain. This means that we're becoming independent, dominated by lots of large foreign firms from other parts of the world. Another bad thing about a trade deficit, it promotes deindustrialisation. Many of our firms have moved abroad due to cost savings they can make elsewhere or higher skills they can make elsewhere. That's what leads to us importing these goods rather than exporting them. But what deindustrialisation creates is structural unemployment. So we can see overall then that a trade deficit is not helping us support some of our important macroeconomic targets, namely unemployment and economic growth. So let's think now about a solution to the problem. So what can we do to solve the problem? Now all this depends on whether the problem's created by AD problems or problems with AS. Now let's explain what this could be then. Let's go for AD first of all. It could simply be that we demand lots of goods and services in the economy. It means we want to import too much. We'll look at how we can solve that problem in a second. Second problem we've got, and this one is far more worrying, is that it could be that we lack competitiveness. It's just cheaper or better to do things in other countries. This is one that's more difficult to solve. Now let's think about how we can solve the AD problem first of all. What we can use are expenditure reducing policies or expenditure switching policies. So let's talk through the first one then, expenditure reducing policies first of all. What we have to do here in effect is to make people poorer. We need to contract the economy. So what we would use here are contractionary policies. In effect, we lower AD in the economy. If we lower AD, if people, especially people got high propensity to import goods, then demand for imports will fall. And it can really be a short-term fix though, because eventually that will lead the economy into recession. Clearly lowering AD through contractionary monetary and fiscal policy will mean that eventually we have high unemployment and low economic growth in the economy. It might promote a recession. Expenditure switching. What we're advocating here is protectionism policies in effect. We might use quotas, tariffs, we might devalue our currency. All these different policies will mean that more people will be inclined to buy British goods in the UK rather than buying foreign goods. So import quotas, for example, restrict the flow of imports into the country. Tariffs raise the price of imported goods. One thing I want to raise here, though, is something that we call the J-curve effect, or the Marshall-Lerner condition. So Marshall-Lerner condition, J-curve effect. Now we know that one form of protectionism is to raise the price of imports. We can do this by depreciating our currency. In theory, if we make our currency a lower value, imports become more expensive. Problem we've got though, in the short run, some people will be price inelastic for their imports. So this means as the price of imports increases, demand will not change very much. This means the cost of our imports become more expensive, but people still buy them. So the amount of money we're actually giving over for our imports will become more expensive. This might actually in the short run increase our trade deficit. So the problem with expenditure switching policies, if you look to devalue your currency and you're reliant on imports, then in the short run you still need your imports, they become more expensive, you actually have to give over more of your money to get your imports, so your trade deficit might actually increase. So that's the J-curve effect, or the Marshall-Lerner condition. In the long run that wouldn't become a problem, because eventually we give people time to switch to UK products rather than the imported ones to get around that problem. But in the short run that's going to create a problem. If we've got supply side problems, we lack competitiveness. Well, to solve these problems, the only thing we can recommend is supply side policies. Raise the skills and quality in our country, raise our productivity levels. This should mean that our exports become more popular across the world. The need to import will go down. This, however, is going to be a long-term solution. Implementing improvements in education and training, investing more in research and development are all timely things. A lot of people think, and I think it's incorrect, people think the best thing to do to reduce our trade deficit is to try and lower the costs in our country. Make things cheap. And to a certain extent that can be achieved through better labour productivity, increasing capital, but we're never going to become as cost effective as China due to their low wage rates, India because of their low wage rates, Brazil for the same problem. What we have to therefore do is focus on increasing quality. Germany, the world's second biggest exporter, are expensive, but they're associated with high quality products. High quality products people will buy. Now, I want to end this presentation by talking about a surplus. Everyone always thinks that if you've got a deficit, what your target should be is to have a surplus, a trade surplus. Not always the case, because what we find is a big surplus will lead to an appreciation of your currency. Think about why. As people demand more of your goods, they demand your currency. Demand for your currency increases, your currency becomes more valuable. That can create problems in the future. That could lead to an increase in imports in the future as imports become cheaper. Another problem with the surplus, it can lead to mass inflation. Exports are injection into the economy. They create a positive multiplier effect. If you're operating on your PPB already, you've got very little spare capacity, then high demand for your exports will push up prices. So what most countries would like to achieve is a balanced trade. So we'd like the value of imports to equal the value of exports. Britain's position at the moment is we need to get towards a balanced trade.